Good morning or afternoon or evening or whenever you're watching this movie. This is Shannon Gracie from Maricosta College, and today we'll be discussing multiplication and division of real numbers. This is the seventh section from Chapter 1 in the Blitzer Beginning and Intermediate Algebra combo book. So here we go. We'll be multiplying real numbers, multiplying more than two real numbers, finding multiplicative inverses, using the definition of division, dividing real numbers, simplifying algebraic expressions involving multiplication, determining whether a number is a solution of an equation, and we'll use mathematical models involving multiplication and division. So here we go. So warm up. Go ahead and pause the movie and get warmed up. Okay, let's see how you did. Here with this one, I'm thinking that if you see, we've got this. Well, let's see. Well, let's rewrite this as 9/10. I'm going to distribute the minus sign because I noticed that I've got now a minus is going to give me a positive 7/10. And the reason I did it this way is because I saw that I would have this 9/10 and this 7/10 that I could go ahead and combine. So here, do you see that we will have 16/10, right, minus 1/4. And here, let's leave a little room. We could reduce the 16/10, but I'm going to go ahead and just get a common denominator now. Notice that we could multiply this one by 2/2, and we can multiply the 4 by 5/5, which will yield a result of 32/20 minus 5/20. And then this will be 32 minus 5 all over 20, which gives us an end result of 27/20. And that one is reduced. I apologize for not leaving very much room here. Okay, next up, number 2, we have the opposite of this quantity that's in an absolute value. And then we'll be doing minus a -6. So here we go. This will be the opposite of, do you see that we'll get 8 plus 2 in the absolute value, because minus a minus is plus. And then outside there, minus a -6 is plus 6. So here we will have negative absolute value of 10 plus 6, which gives us negative. Now the result of the absolute value of 10 is positive 10. So this thing here becomes 10. And then we still have to apply the negative to the 10. And then we'll add our 6. So this gives us negative 10 plus 6, which is -4. And we're all done. How'd you guys do? All right. Hopefully you're all warmed up. So here we go. Oh, there's another warm up here. So we need to change this English phrase to math-ese. So here we are. The difference between. So the difference between means that we're going to have a subtraction going on. And then the next statement is going to be the first quantity, and then the second statement will be the other quantity. So here we go. 9 times a number. Well, the directions had said to let x represent the number. So 9 times a number would be 9 times x. So here is the correlation for the blue. And then negative 4 times a number. So this will be negative 4. And with this one, we should probably have said negative 4 times the number. In fact, let's go ahead and officially change that to the number so that there's no room for error. So negative 4 times the number would be negative 4 times x. So negative 4 times the number is this. And then this here, the and, is the finishing up of how to write this subtraction. And that's it. Okay, here we go with this next one. So we have the quotient of. So the quotient of negative 7 and a number. And then here, again, we're going to run across, I'm going to say the number. So the quotient of negative 7 and a number, I'm going to go ahead and put the whole thing in yellow, would be negative 7 divided by the number. Then it's going to be subtracted from. So subtracted from is going this way since it's subtracted from. Okay, and this was the quotient of negative 7 and a number. And then the quotient of negative 12 and the number. So that one would be written as negative 12 divided by the number. And that would be our blue. So how'd you do? That one was a little bit trickier. All right. So moving right along, starting the lesson, the product of two real numbers. So the product of two real numbers with different signs is found by multiplying their absolute values. The product is negative. Now, the reason for this, if you think about, suppose we have negative 7 times 2. Well, you could rewrite this as negative 7 added twice. So this would give us negative 14. So multiplication can be defined by repeated addition. All right, so it's the first number added to itself the second number amount of times. So that's why that rule comes into play. Now, the product of two real numbers with the same sign is found by multiplying their absolute values. The product is positive. So the product of 0 in any real number is 0. Okay? So here we go. Pause the movie and do these multiplications using the rule learned above, or the rules learned above. Ready? On your mark, get set, go! Okay, let's see how you did. I have one positive and one negative, so that means I'm going to have a negative result. 15 times 5 is 75. So that is the end result, negative 75. So 8.3 times negative 2, this is going to be, we'll have a 6, and then we'll have a 16, and then it's 1 decimal place, and it's going to be negative because we have 1 positive and 1 negative. Now, here we have 2 negative numbers, so we know our end result will be positive. Now, for those of you that are interested in learning, mental math, this is a very useful application of the distributive law. When I look at a number like this, I think to myself, 12 is the same as 2 plus 10. So 11 times 12 is just like 11 times 2 plus 10. And remember, that's going to be 22 plus 110, which gives us 132. So there's a very useful application of the distributive law. So this one will be equal to positive 132, because remember, when you have the same sign and you're multiplying two numbers, you get a positive. And this guy, 4/3 times 0 is 0. There you go. Okay, well now, what if you're multiplying more than two numbers? So if none of the factors is 0, right, the product of an even number of negative numbers is positive. The product of an odd number of negative numbers is negative if any factor is 0. The product is 0. Okay. So let's check it out. This next example, go ahead and pause the movie and multiply away. Okay, let's see how you did. I see two negative numbers, so I know that the end result's going to be positive, right? So this is going to be, let's see, it's always nice to do the multiplications in the order that's going to be easiest. So I'm looking at 5 times 6 times 2, right? 5 times 6 times 2, 5 times 6 is 30, 30 times 2 is 60. So we're going to get 7 times 60. The negatives went away because we've got two of them, so that becomes positive. So our end result for this bad boy is a 42 with 1 0 for 420. Okay. Now for this guy, I see 3 negatives. So that means my end result will be a negative. Now over here, 2 divides itself once and 8 4 times. And then when I'm looking here, I see I could do 4 times 5 is 20. So we'll have negative 13 times 20. Well, 13 times 2 is 26, and we put a 0 at the end to get to 60. So negative 260 is the end result. All right. Okay, the meaning of division. The result of dividing the real number A by the non-zero real number B is called the quotient of A and B. We can write this quotient as A divided by B, or A divided by B, writing it as a fraction. We can define division in terms of multiplication by using multiplicative inverse or reciprocal. And we learned this earlier. Now we're just throwing negatives into the mix. Okay, so let's go ahead and find the multiplicative inverse of each of these numbers. So the multiplicative inverse of 12, remember 12 is just like 12 over 1. So 1 over 12 is the multiplicative inverse. Negative a fourth would be negative 4 over 1, or you could just say negative 4. Negative 7 eighths would be negative 8 sevenths. All right, here we go. Definition of division. If a and b are real numbers and b is not equal to 0, then the quotient of a and b is defined as a divided by b equals a times 1 over b. The quotient of two real numbers is the product of the first number and the multiplicative inverse of the second number. All right, so let's take a look at this one. Divide using the definition of division. So this is going to be 5 and then times 5 over 1, which is just 5 times 5, which is 25. Okay. Number 2, this is, remember, a negative over a negative is going to end up being, well, you know what, we'll write it out like this. So negative 123, and then I'm going to write it as divided by negative 3. So that will be negative 123 times negative 1/3. So a negative times a negative is a positive. So here what's going to happen is we will get 123 times 1 over 1 times 3, which is going to be 3 goes into itself once and into 123 41 times. So we will get 41. Now, a lot of you guys might have simplified this by dividing out a 3, and you can certainly, from the numerator and denominator, you can certainly do that. The directions had specified to use the definition of division, which is why I showed you the way I did. Okay? Alrighty, next up, the quotient of two real numbers. So the quotient of two real numbers with different signs is found by dividing their absolute values. The quotient is negative, as we saw above. On which example was that? The example, actually I apologize, we did not have an example of that one. The quotient of two real numbers with the same sign. Now this one, both of the examples above fall under this particular condition. So we find this by dividing their absolute values. The quotient is positive. Division of any real number by 0 is undefined. Undefined. Okay. So, this is always a hard concept to master, but this is how I think about it. If you have, let's say you have 4, and you're counting how many zeros are in 4. Will you ever finish? I mean, aren't there infinitely many? Zeros in 4? Whereas, if you had 4 and you were counting how many 4s were in 0, you would get a result of 0. 0 times 4 is 0, and your remainder would be 0, right? So 0 divided by 4 is 0, and 4 divided by 0 is undefined. Okay. Any non-zero number divided into 0 is 0. So here we go. Example 5, we are dividing. So this here is equal to -2/5 times 10 over 1, which will give us -20 over 5, which is -4. 0 divided by 123 is 0. This one, we already did this one, remember? This is going to be -41. It's actually going to have a different sign. Last time we had done -123 divided by -3. And then this last problem will be let's look at it like this. Well, first of all, we have 2 negatives, so we'll have a positive quotient. So this is going to just be 1.8 divided by 0.6, which is, if you think about it, you could multiply both of these by 10, and we would just have 18 divided by 6, which is 3. All right, so let's take a look at what we have going on here. Here's some additional properties. So the identity property of multiplication. 1 can be deleted from a product. So if I have 1 times x, that's just equal to x. The inverse property of multiplication is like this: if a is not equal to 0, a times 1 over a is equal to 1, and 1 over a times a is equal to 1. So let's take a look. If I had 5 times 1/5, that would be 1. So there's an example. And we use that all the time when we're solving equations. The multiplication property of -1. So -1 times a is the opposite or additive inverse of a. So negative 1 times a equals negative a, and a times negative 1 equals negative a. So if I had negative 1 times x, I would get the opposite of x, negative x. Double negative property. The opposite of negative a is a. So in Mathies, the opposite of negative a equals a. And we've encountered that a few times now. So if we have 5 minus negative 2, that's equal to 5 plus 2. So minus a minus is a plus. Okay, last page, my friends. If a negative sign precedes parentheses, remove the parentheses and change the sign of every, that's important, every term within the parentheses. So here we'll have negative 4 times negative 3 plus negative 4 times 2 using the distributive law, which gives us 12 minus 8. Oh, I apologize, I've got an x here. Remember, don't forget to stop me when I make up my own math. So negative 12 x's minus 8, and we're done. Okay, so this one we will have, when I distribute the 5 through, I'm going to have 15y's minus 5 times 1 is 5. Now this is that last rule up there. I've got this minus in front of the parentheses. So this will end up being minus 14y, and minus a minus is plus 2. So this ends up being equivalent to this guy. Okay? And of course, this one was equivalent to this. Alrighty. So now we've got some like terms. 15y's minus 14y's is 1y. And then negative 5 plus 2 is negative 3. So we'll get y minus 3. Alright, so let's check out this application. If we're switching from Fahrenheit to Celsius, okay, this is the equation to do so. So here we will have, so for now I'm going to leave the unit out, and we will figure these out. So C is equal to 5/9 times F in this case is negative 13, and then minus 32. So here, wherever I see an F, plugging in negative 13, and I will get C is equal to 5/9. Negative 13 minus 32 is negative 45. 9 divides 45, so we'll have that negative 5 remaining. So at the end of the day, we get C is negative 25. Alright, so negative 13 degrees Fahrenheit is negative 25 degrees Celsius. Alright, let's check this one out. This time, wherever we see an F, we're going to plug in 5. So we'll have C is equal to 5/9 times 5 minus 32. C equals 5/9 times negative 27. 9 divides 27, it goes in negative 3 times. So C is equal to negative 15. What we found was 5 degrees Fahrenheit is negative 15 degrees Celsius. And we are all done with 1.7. So just one more section in Chapter 1, which covers exponentiation and order of operations. And then we'll be done with Chapter 1. So make sure you're up to date on your homework so that you'll be ready for the first exam. All right. Have a great day. Bye.